In her article, Transient Advantage, Rita Gunther McGrath proposes a new way to approach business strategy. She says that for too long the business world has obsessed with the notion of building a sustainable competitive advantage, but that it's now rare for a company to maintain a truly lasting advantage. McGrath says that in order to stay ahead nowadays, companies need to constantly start new strategic initiatives, building and exploiting many transient competitive advantages at once. Though individually temporary, these advantages, as a portfolio, can keep companies in the lead in the long run. McGrath looks at the life cycle of a competitive advantage and notes 5 distinct phases. These phases include the launch phase, in which an organization identifies an opportunity and mobilizes resources to capitalize on it, the ramp-up phase, in which the business idea is brought to scale, the exploitation phase, in which the business captures profits and share and forces competitors to react, the reconfigure phase, in which the firm rethinks its business model in response to competition, and finally the disengagement phase, in which resources are reallocated to the next advantage. McGrath also says companies need to face the brutal truth in assessing their competitive advantages early on. She provides a list of 8 questions companies should ask themselves to determine whether their competitive advantages have run their course and need to be phased out. She then goes on to identify various traps that companies fall into. One of these traps is the first mover trap, or the belief that being first to market and owning assets creates a sustainable position. Another is the superiority trap, or the belief that any early stage product or process from a competitor won't be as effective. McGrath then proposes a new playbook for creating business strategy and provides 8 plays. First, she recommends thinking about arenas, not industries. She says that today's strategy involves orchestrating competitive moves, and that arenas, unlike industries, are a combination of customer segments, offers, and places in which offers are delivered. Second, she recommends setting broad themes and then letting people experiment. She says companies can't analyze their way to an advantage with staffers and consultants. Instead, they must examine data and use advanced pattern recognition, direct observation, and the interpretation of weak signals in the environment to set broad themes. Third, McGrath suggests adopting metrics that support entrepreneurial growth. She says firms should use the logic of real options to evaluate new moves. She defines a real option as a small investment that conveys the right, but not the obligation, to make a more significant commitment in the future. A real option allows an organization to learn by trial and error. Fourth, McGrath recommends focusing on experiences and solutions to problems. A company that demonstrates a demand for something exists is likely to have competitors quickly moving in. McGrath says companies should focus on providing well-designed experiences and complete solutions to the problems their customers face. Fifth, McGrath advocates for building strong relationships and networks. She says one of the few barriers to entry that remains powerful in a transient advantage context deals with people in their personal networks. The most successful and sought-after employees are those with the most robust networks. Sixth, the author cautions against brutal restructuring and recommends learning healthy disengagement. She says firms that effectively navigate the transient advantage economy seldomly restructure, downsize, or mass fire employees. Instead, they continually adjust and readjust. Seventh, McGrath talks about getting systematic about early stage innovation and recommends filling the company pipeline with new initiatives. Companies that innovate proficiently manage a process by having innovation structure with separate budget and staff, and a system where leaders can make go, no-go decisions outside the normal process. Eighth, she recommends experimenting, iterating, and learning. She says companies need to focus on experimentation and learning and be prepared to shift or change emphasis as new discoveries happen. The discovery phase is followed by business model definition and incubation, in which a project takes shape. McGrath concludes her article by highlighting the importance of quality leadership in transient advantage economies. She concludes her article also by saying that although we may be tempted to throw up our hands and say strategy is no longer useful, the opposite point is true. Strategy is more important than ever, it just isn't about the status quo any longer.